Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're featuring UFC fighter Billy Quarantillo, an American mixed martial artist who currently competes in the featherweight division of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Winning 6 fights in the UFC and 2 performance bonuses, his goal is to become a world champion and to give back as much as possible. Today, he's here to chat career and to talk to me about his incredible brand partnership with Once Upon a Coconut and how they are revolutionizing the beverage industry, but also how they are leveraging their position and power to give back. It all started with an inspiration to create Once Upon a Coconut because people should create their own narrative around the brands they consume, not the other way around. Their goal is simple. They want to tell a story that we can all be part of while hydrating the world with next level, legendary tasting premium coconut water. Welcoming now to the show is the incredible Billy Quarantillo. Welcome, superstar.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction. Probably the best one I've ever heard. Thank you so much. I've been following your show now for the last few weeks, and it's really cool what you're doing. So it's great to be here.
Absolutely. Congrats on all your success. I'm so excited that you're here to chat with me today. And thanks for helping us kick this off. You are a public figure, and one can argue even an expert when it comes to fitness and health, given your career. And as a mom, I absolutely love coconut water because it's truly proprietary in its health benefits. I mean, potassium, calcium, and magnesium, those are all electrolytes. They play important roles in helping maintain heart health, liver and kidney health, digestive functions, health, healthy blood sugar levels, muscle and nerve functions, and just so much more. So I specifically started drinking it after my radiation while I was battling thyroid disease. And typically I use it as a cure-all for hangovers. What was your first reaction when you tasted Once Upon a Coconut? And what health benefits do you love it for? Also, is there a specific time that you generally like to drink it?
Yeah, absolutely. And all those things you mentioned, it's I think it's one of those it's one of the biggest superfoods in the world. And not only is it a superfood, but it really aids with hydration. So even before I was approached from Once Upon a Coconut, I read about and I consumed coconut water on my own. And I know that I trained at a Gracie gym. So the Gracies basically began Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they would always talk about all these superfoods, and they would put coconut water at the top of their list. So that's what got me early on in the coconut water game. And then my good friend John approached me with this Once Upon a Coconut, and man, the first time I tried it, I absolutely loved it. It's one of those acquired tastes that you have that you just know you're doing the right thing. You're putting the right stuff into your body. And being an athlete and being a performer, it's just such a big part of what I have to do. So it was a perfect fit for us. It's absolutely delicious. They got the new flavors now that I absolutely love. And I'm just super happy to be a part of this whole thing.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit for you because not only are you an athlete constant in need of rehydrating your body, but to your point, this is a brand that loves to give back and they're doing something great. And if you want to go one step further, talking about chemtrails everywhere, I love that Once Upon a Coconut cans are PBA free. And PBA, for those that don't know, can seep into food or beverages from containers that are made with BPA, and exposure to this is a concern because of the possible health effects on the brain and prostate gland of fetuses, infants, and children. And it can also affect children's behavior. So making sure that those cans are in fact, BPA free is extremely important to me. I know it's minuscule, but to me, it's an important thing. Now, how does proper hydration impact your performance specifically? And can you share any instances where coconut water has made a significant impact on your training or recovery?
Yeah, definitely. So, a big part of my, my training schedule, and of course, I live in Tampa, where, and especially if you've been here this summer, it's been one of the hottest summers ever. And it was the first year that I was in training camp the whole summer, so I didn't get a chance to go back up north where I grew up. It was a very hot summer where. Right after my workouts, I would go either have just a straight up coconut water, or I would make it into a protein shake, and it gives you the extra hydration that you don't get with water. And it also doesn't have all those preservatives and the other stuff that comes in like the Gatorades and the sports drinks and those type of drinks. So it's a big part of my training. And then the last part is before the fight. Like a lot of people know, like a lot of boxers and MMA fighters cut a lot of weight to prepare themselves and to make weight for the fight. So right after I make weight, after losing 10 to 15 pounds of water weight, it's one of the first things I have right after. And I just like how it rehydrates me and replenishes all that sweat that I got rid of. And it prepares me for that battle the day before the fight.
Well, you sold me. But I'm a huge fan because you're preaching to the choir, but even just from a health perspective, you hit it right on. Now, how did you get started in MMA and what do you attribute all your success to?
So it started off when I was always a fan of combat. It wasn't really that popular when I was growing up. I grew up watching boxing and I would watch hockey and I would, get the most excited when they would start fighting. So it basically came down to I graduated from high school. I went to a community college where I could just pay it outright, like while I was going there. I didn't want to take a huge student loan when I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be. While I was at that community college, I started training in martial arts. I had some incidences where I thought it was important to start learning how to train. And when I graduated, I didn't know what was going to be next for me. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. But that's when I moved to Tampa Bay, and I decided to give it a shot where I would train part time and then I would go to school part time. And the school didn't really work out right away. And I basically told myself, you have a year until you have residency to go to school here. So let's take a year off. Let's train martial arts. And if it works out, we'll just keep doing this. And if it doesn't, we'll go back to school. And that was 13 years ago. So it's still working out for me. The MMA path, I haven't gone back yet, but I can still keep that option open. But for now, being in the UFC and following my dreams, that has been a much bigger part than finishing up my bachelor's degree.
So incredible. What a great journey. I mean, listen, you go where there is no path and you leave a trail, right?
Mhm.
And so going back and looking at all the fights you've had, what was your most memorable fight? And I'd also love to know what your training routine looks like.
Yeah, there's been so many memorable ones from my first fight ever that I took in Western New York when I didn't even know what I was doing, and like walking out, I was like, I don't know if I should even be here. To probably the most significant fight for me was when because I've had so many ups and downs, like most people, it's never as easy as you think it's going to be, but it's always worth it. So probably the biggest fight for me was when I was on Dana White's Contender Series. This was after years and years and years of trying to get in the UFC, coming up short, just a little bit short, and part of me not knowing if I would ever get a chance to get in the UFC. And that was a fight where if I lost, I don't even know if I'd be here talking to you right now. That was in 2019, and it was pretty much a must-win fight for me. And I went out there and I won a big, huge fight, and I got the UFC contract. It was probably the best day of my career because it meant the most. It was the biggest goal of my career up until that point, and I finally broke through that wall of getting into the big leagues. So that one definitely sticks out to me. For in terms of training, it's pretty much 6 days a week. I'm training at my gym Gracie Tampa South where I do all my mixed martial arts training, or I'm at a place called Driven where I'm doing my strength and conditioning, my recovery sessions over there. And then a lot of the training is in my kitchen when I'm eating the right foods, drinking the right stuff, putting the right stuff in my body so that I can execute at the highest level.
This is great stuff. Great, great advice. I love how you laid it there. So now we have about 3 minutes and three questions left. So,
Okay.
number one of the last three questions is MMA a profitable career? And what is the most important piece of advice you could give to aspiring fighters?
Man, that is a great question. So when I first started, when I was going through that college process and I didn't know what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a big businessman or something that was successful. Mixed martial artists really weren't making that type of money. There wasn't like the Conor McGregor and these huge stars at the time. So to answer your question, it is profitable nowadays. It's still very, the percentage of people that actually get out there and get to the UFC and make real money, it's definitely not easy. But if you're like me and you have a strong desire, and for me it was just go out there and win, go out there and win. Just don't celebrate too much now. Keep waiting until you get to that point. And finally, for me, after being not having a lot of money from like 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, just grinding my way to the UFC. The last 4 years, it's really paid off for me. And it's made up for all those years where I didn't have a lot. To be able to capitalize it on those last few years, it's definitely possible. And I'm a great example of that being possible.
Yeah, and nobody gets to making six figures without putting in the work. So you put in a decade worth of work. So, you have endorsements now lined up and people are, sponsoring you and you have contracts and that's exactly where you should be. But you did put in a decade worth of sweat, fight, and your own personal time and equity. Now, why do you think Once Upon a Coconut brand has taken off as quickly and successfully as it has? And why are all these VIPs and celebrities like yourself major endorsers?
That is another really good question, and for me, I think when I first started talking to John, like the head honcho over there, who is a great friend now, I think what they do differently is they just do everything right. They're not all about profits for themselves. I think, and that's relatable to anything in life. I think if you help out other people and you give back, it always comes back to you tenfold. And one of their biggest missions was when they first start, when I got to know what they're about, is that they donate 10% of every single thing every single can that they sell. They're always donating a little bit. But on top of that, just from knowing John and seeing how much he does outside of the Once Upon a Coconut brand, I think that was the biggest thing for me. Just it's stuff that I wanted to get involved in. He's got the Down Syndrome Foundation. He's got Charlie Rocket on board now, who they're just always giving back. They're just people that you feel good about hanging out with. You feel good about talking to, because they'll go the extra mile to give back to the unfortunate. And you don't see that a lot with multi-million-dollar companies like they're working with.
Wow, yeah, that's a great endorsement. I echo your sentiment fully, 100%. That's why I'm one of their ambassadors. They are one of our platinum sponsors. Um, John, Ray, Mark, Alan, salt of the earth kind of
Mhm.
group, kind of people, and you definitely want to get on board with good people because good people make good things happen in the world. Well, we are out of time officially. Billy, thank you so much for chatting with me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm going to keep following and watching all your shows. I really appreciate it.
That was our Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. And that was the incredible Billy Quarantillo, UFC fighter. You can check him out directly on the gram at Billy QMMA. Now imagine a drink that's nutrient rich, powerfully refreshing, naturally sweet, with no added sugars, not from concentrate, zero additives, low in calories, absolutely no artificial flavors, and is so tasty that it will become your new favorite beverage. Once Upon a Coconut is available in four refreshing flavors: pure, chocolate, pineapple, and sparkling with energy. Do your taste buds a favor and pick some today at onceuponacoconut.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, 100% pure coconut water. Imagine a drink that's nutrient rich, powerfully refreshing, naturally sweet with no added sugars, not from concentrate, zero additives, low in calories, absolutely no artificial flavors, and is so tasty that it will become your new favorite beverage. Enter Once Upon a Coconut, the absolute best tasting coconut water you will ever try. Available in four refreshing flavors: pure, chocolate, pineapple, and sparkling with energy. Do your taste buds a favor and pick up some today at onceuponacoconut.com.